You ever get that feeling when things are finally actually calm and some other alarm just starts ringing in your head? That weird sense of dread when life is peaceful? Well, today, we're going to dig into the fascinating neurobiology behind why your brain might be hardwired to fight against relaxation. So, let's get into it and see what's really going on.
Man, this phrase just hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly captures a feeling that is so familiar to a lot of trauma survivors. And it's not pessimism, not really. It's a protective habit, learned by a nervous system that was taught that calm is just the quiet before the storm.
Okay, so right off the bat, it's so important that we reframe what we're talking about here. This is not a personality flaw. Hypervigilance is an intelligent, incredibly adaptive response. Your brain learned that staying on high alert was the absolute safest option. It's a skill it developed to protect you.
So that brings us to the big question, right? If this is a survival skill, why does it turn against the one thing we all want, a feeling of peace? I mean, really think about that for a second. Why would a state of safety feel so incredibly dangerous? Well, the answer lies in where our brain did its early training.
So when a child grows up in an environment like this, their brain, their little developing brain, has to figure out how to navigate the world. It learns to read every tiny shift in mood, every change in tone, just to stay safe. It's a brilliant adaptation, really, but it teaches a very dangerous lesson.
The logic the brain develops is, well, it's kind of brilliant and heartbreaking at the same time. If a period of quiet is always followed by an explosion of anger or criticism or something worse, the brain doesn't file that quiet away as safe. It files it away as a warning sign. Relaxation literally becomes a liability.
And this isn't you thinking this consciously, not at all. This is a deep physiological belief that gets etched right into the nervous system. The brain learns that the best way to protect you is to keep you on guard, especially when things seem way too good to be true.
So, what's actually going on under the hood to create this state of constant alert? Let's take a look at what's happening on a neurological level. This is what we call an amygdala hijack. Think of the amygdala as your brain's super-sensitive smoke detector. In a brain shaped by trauma, that smoke detector becomes hypersensitive. It can even get bigger. It starts screaming fire at the tiniest puff of smoke, flooding your whole system with stress hormones. Now, at the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational thinking center, the firefighter of the brain, it becomes underactive. It can't get through to shut off the alarm. So the alarm is just stuck on, and the brakes have completely failed.
You know, scientists actually have a name for this, latent vulnerability. And the idea is that these brain changes aren't a disorder. They are brilliant short-term survival tools. Being hyper-alert is what helps a kid survive a chaotic home. But those exact same adaptations create this hidden vulnerability later in life, when you're finally in a safer place, and that alarm just doesn't need to be on all the time. And this vulnerability plays out across three major systems in the brain. First, your threat system goes into overdrive, a lot like what we see in combat soldiers. Second, your reward system actually becomes less responsive, which, is a pretty useful way to manage constant disappointment if rewards are few and far between. And third, your memory system starts to prioritize negative memories. It makes sure that the worst-case scenarios are always right there at the top of your mind, like a protective template for what might happen next.
And this stuff isn't just in your head, These neurological changes, they have profound, measurable effects on our physical health and how we live our daily lives. Get this. A study in Chicago found that people with the highest levels of hypervigilance had systolic blood pressure that was, on average, 8.6 points higher. This isn't just a feeling of stress. It's a chronic, physical state that is constantly putting wear and tear on the body.
So this chronic stress creates this cascade, this ripple effect of problems. First, you've got stress susceptibility. Just normal life feels harder, and the mental energy you need for things like learning just gets drained. Second is stress generation. It sounds weird, but these adaptations can actually lead you to create more stressful situations, maybe by misreading social cues as threats, which can then spark conflict. And finally, there's social thinning. This constant threat scanning makes it incredibly hard to build and keep the supportive relationships that we all need to feel okay.
So why is being on guard just so exhausting? Well, the idea hypothesis gives us a really good clue. It's like this. Normally, our brain has this kind of internal shield that protects our thoughts from outside distractions. But hypervigilance flips that script completely. Your brain becomes so focused on scanning the external world for threats, a footstep down the hall, a tiny shift in someone's tone, that it can't maintain that internal focus you need for deep thought. And the result? Just profound mental fatigue. But here's the most important part, the amazing thing, really. If the brain is plastic enough to learn this state of high alert to survive, it is absolutely plastic enough to unlearn it. That same incredible ability to adapt can be used to teach it a brand new story about what safety feels like.
And here's the kicker. You can't think your way out of this. When your nervous system is in full-on survival mode, the amygdala has hijacked the controls, and logic and reason, they're just not getting through. Healing begins by teaching your body on a fundamental physical level that it is safe right here, in this moment.
Okay, so here's something you can actually do. It's a powerful and really simple tool called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. And this isn't just a distraction. It's basically a neurobiological intervention. By intentionally engaging all of your senses with your immediate environment, you are actively bringing your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, back online. You're sending a direct bottom-up signal to your nervous system that says, hey, we're not in the past, we're right here, and we are safe.
And that's such a huge shift in perspective, isn't it? The journey isn't about beating yourself up for feeling anxious or trying to force yourself to relax. It's about compassionate practice, slowly, gently, reintroducing your body to the feeling of safety, just one moment at a time, letting it build a whole new library of safe experiences.
So I'll leave you with this thought. What if this state of hyper-awareness isn't a sign that your brain is broken? What if it's a sign of a brain that did its job perfectly? A brain that was and still is just incredibly loyal to keeping you alive. Understanding that loyalty, well, that's the first step to helping it finally write a new chapter.